Okay, so in part one, we wired everything up so that everything's connected, and we were able to test that it all works using these relays and the GPIO output, which is great. So now we need to do the software part. So in part two, I'm going to be writing some code. I'm going to use a cron job so that we can time the openings for 6 in the morning and 6 at night. But what I would also like to do is use the Raspberry Pi camera, and I'll be able to take a photo before and after the opening of the feeder. Okay, so I'm going to connect all this up. Another thing is I'm using this power bank to power the Raspberry Pi. The idea is I can plug the power bank into the mains, and that way if the power goes out, I'll basically be able to use this as a crude UPS, and I know he's going to get fed. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this camera before I power the Raspberry Pi up, and if you go to the Raspberry Pi website, they'll show you how to connect up the camera, but if I quickly do this, so for now I'm going to plug it in. Plugging it in is quite easy. You lift this retaining clip out, make sure the metal contacts are facing towards the HDMI port. You plug that in all the way, and then you gently push down the plastic retaining clip. That should pinch the cable in place. Now you need to make sure the cable hasn't moved, and if you look, see the contacts just through there. Okay, so that should be fine. Now we can plug it all in and get started. Okay, there we go, it's booting up. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is open up the preferences, Raspberry Pi configuration. Just like before, and interfaces, just like before, where I've enabled the SPI, GPIO and IC2C ports, I also need to enable the camera. So once I've done this, okay, and now I can go to programming and Python 3 and open up the Python console. If we want to test our camera now, we can open up this console and we can say Raspberry still -O for output and temp image.jpg, and you'll see the thing will connect and take a photo. Okay, so if we now navigate to the Pi home page, you will see temp image, and you'll see the very shaky shot I just took because I was moving the camera. Great, so now we know the camera works, which is great. So next, we need to look at our script. We create a new file called feedolly.py. Okay, there we go, feedolly.py. So in here, if I say file, open feedolly.py, I get a nice blank file. Okay, so I can start now. So I need to import the GPIO library, then import time so that I can use the wait function from the Pi camera library. I need to import Pi camera. Then I need to define the camera. The camera equals Pi camera. That's a constructor which will construct, and then my local variable will be camera. Okay, so that's should be all we need to do. If I hold the camera up to me and I save this, and now I run it, you should hear the clicking, and the camera should take a photo. Let's see if this works. Run module. Okay, I had some warnings about the channel already being in use because I'm using 5, but it has worked. All the relays are now closed, and the camera's also uninitialized, so that should be fine. Now, I can look at feed cap pre over here, and there's the first picture it took, and feed cap post is the second picture I took. Here we go. Okay, so the next step will be to get this code to run at the desired times. So for us to do that, if we go to the console, we should be able to open up the cron table, which is the cron tab. So if I type in sudo, because I want to use the root user, space cron tab -e, and that'll open it up for edit. There we go. Okay, so this is a bit small. Let me try and zoom in. If we start with writing how many minutes, how many hours, the day, the month, and the day of week, and then the script. So in this case, I want to run feed oli.py. So here I've got 16. Time now is 5:10 in the evening, so I'm going to call that 17. So I'm going to make it say 15, which is 15 minutes past 17, so it's kind of backwards, but anyway. Okay, let's Control X to exit, and yes, I want to save, and enter, I want to call a cron tab. Okay, there we go, there's my cron tab. So if we wait 3 minutes, we should see the job run. Okay, so we have the base of that working. The time job will run and will open at the times that we've specified, which means ultimately this prototype works. It takes the photo, but it doesn't do anything with it. It just stores it on the hard drive and then, or the memory card, and then overwrites it. So we need to do something about that. I'd like it to maybe email me. So I've just done some research, and in Python I'll be able to send myself an email, and that will tell me that it's working, and also that I'll show the image, which is the idea. So I'm gonna try and do that now. Yeah. Okay, for the last bit of the project, if I open up the code I've written now, you'll recognize this from before. But what I've done is I've added some new libraries.
to the date time, because I want to have the time in the email that I'm going to send, and then some of the email libraries to be able to email. And then I've added some details here for, we're going to be using Gmail. It just seems the simplest. There are other email clients you could use. And then your email and your password. Now, what I would suggest is you just set up a new account that you can use for all of your Raspberry Pi projects, and you could use them for all of that. Doing that is quite simple. All you really have to do is, if you go into the sign in page of Google's Gmail, you can get to that using this web address. Then click the create account button, and then you can start creating a new account. Just put in your name, your last name, your chosen email address that you would like, and then put in the password you would like. Now, that password that you put in on this page, you would then use in your code. So do that. You'll have to fill in some other forms like your phone number. I think it's optional, so you don't have to put that in. Any date of birth you'd like, gender, doesn't matter, and then that's all. And once you have your account, you then have to go into your Google settings, and then you have to change the setting to allow for sending or connectivity, at least through unsecured sources. Now, that's mainly because the Raspberry Pi doesn't really deal with certificate-based authentication, so releasing a web page to send emails. So that's needed. Now, they would say that that's not the best security, but that's all the more reason for you to make a new account, because if this account gets hacked, then worst case scenario, they might see some photos, but ultimately you should make sure this password's not easily guessed. Okay, so carrying on with the code. Once you've set up that account, put your details in here for the email address and password. We're then going to do the same things as before in the other code. We do a screen capture. I then set up the GPI pins. I then sleep for a second, just so that I've noticed that the photo gets taken and recorded kind of like at the same time as the signal is sent. So I've just given it a 1 second wait. I then call the pins. I then wait 5 seconds, and this is mainly just so that it gives Ollie a bit of time to actually get to the feeder, so that I can see if he's eating 5 seconds later. It takes him more than 5 seconds to eat, although he is a very fast eater. I then take another photo for the post feed. I then close everything, and then I just grab the current date time. I've then got a class set up. Now, I can't take credit for this code. I got it from somewhere. I'll put a link to the reference I got this from. I've just extended it slightly by doing more than one image. I then set up a subject and into the email data, subject and recipient and all that. I then add 2 MIME image data contents for the 2 images. I then use the SMTP service set up before, which is port 587, I think. Yeah, and I then send it using Gmail, and that's done. So that's effectively a function in a little class in Python. Then at the end of the code, I then create a new email object. I then send to, you can put whatever you like in there. I've just put in your output email. I put a subject in, and I put in the date time.ctime, just so that I know what the exact time is that I get the email from the system, and then just saying Ollie is fed at the time. And then grab the 2 image paths, and they're going to be the same as up here. I should have probably set it as a variable, and then I don't have to set it twice, but I could do that later. I then call sender.sendMail, which is this emailer class and method function. Yes, and that is it. That's all I do. Very simple. I add it to the cron job as before, and every time this is called in my chosen times, it'll open the feeder and feed Ollie, and I will get an email. The email looks like this. It's quite simple, does what it says. I mean, if you were going to do this project, you could put whatever other data you'd like. You could take more pictures. You just have to add more of these sections and obviously more pictures. I don't know. Don't know where else to go with this. There are many things I guess you could do. For now, this is just the bare minimum that I'm just trying to get something to work. I will have a short video now just showing exactly what it looks like when it opens and then the result of that. If you enjoyed this, please take a look at the page I'm writing up for this project. If you'd like to do something like this, ultimately I'm just going to use this channel for kind of techie stuff that I do, I guess. So this is my first one. If you like, please like and subscribe. Comments, if you have any comments, please just let me know. Otherwise, yeah, thanks for watching.